Is Penguin and Parker still involved in the Stargate project? Well, I've got a bit of an update and something concrete about their involvement since December. Welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. So this is quite interesting because basically I've been following the Stargate story, as you know, very, very closely. And I was able to tell you that the guys that developed The Expanse, Hawk Ostby and Mark Fergus, and their company, Penguin and Parker, were involved with some of the development work for this new Stargate project. When Amazon decided they were going to go ahead with Stargate, they first of all asked Penguin and Parker to develop the production Bible, basically a document that the people that then pitched to do the new project would have to use. Basically, a list of rules about what makes Stargate, what Amazon would allow them to do, and what they wouldn't allow them to do. And that document was produced by Mark Fergus, a person that actually asked specifically when The Expanse was cancelled, when asked by Amazon, what would you like to do next, asked for Stargate. Mark Fergus is a massive Stargate fan. I've told you about meetings that sources that I get to speak to were sat in on, where Mark Fergus was asked about certain elements of Stargate. For example, the planet builders and SGU. He then went off, apparently, on a 45-minute rant about how the planet builders were the cleverest species that any we ever came across in Stargate, and that what he would have loved to have seen in the third season if SGU hadn't have been cancelled. Now, if Brad Wright isn't going to be involved in a new Stargate program, we need somebody like Mark Fergus, somebody that is a genuine fan of the project. We also, though, need somebody like Mark Ferguson, Hawk Ostby and his company, Penguin and Parker, that have got a track record of doing really good sci-fi. And actually, I would say respectful sci-fi. They developed a TV series based on those original novels, and they did it really respectfully and cleverly. They wrote many of the scripts. They developed a lot of about what the story would look like and how the story would transfer from the page to the screen, which is no easy feat in itself. And Fred, what story happens on the page doesn't always work on screen. I know a lot of people go, oh, they've changed this and they've changed that from the novel, and get very upset about that sort of thing. But sometimes it's necessary because they're two different media. They work differently. An ending in a book often does not work on the screen and does need to be changed. Now, when that's done well, like in The Expanse, we can applaud it. Sadly, it isn't always done well, but Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostby have got that track record. So if Brad isn't involved, we want these guys. But I was telling you basically in January, nearly a year ago now, that they were negotiating. But Mark Fergus ended those negotiations just before Christmas, partly because they couldn't agree on very fundamental things like, is it going to be a TV series or a movie? What sort of budget am I going to get if I do a TV series or a movie? And actually, what are the rules? What are the boundaries that I need to go by? And if you can't tell me these things, what is the point in continuing this conversation? So those negotiations ended at Christmas, and I've not been able to hear anything solid since, which was making me a little bit nervous, making me basically wonder if they were still involved. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I can't tell you for 100% certain if they're still involved right now, because unfortunately, I just don't know. Basically, the strikes are a bit of a no man's land. We don't really know what was going on during the strikes. Amazon could have decided to scrap everything and change everything, like they have done, to be honest, with a couple of other projects, like Disney have done with things like Daredevil. We cannot be certain. But a source has been able to get in touch with a couple of people that did continue negotiations with Penguin and Parker after December. And I'm now able to tell you what was discussed. So in late February and early March, they did continue negotiations. Claudia Valentini was hired by Amazon as the new head of movie, theatrical, and streaming. And pretty much on her first day, Jennifer Salke sent her a memo ordering her to begin development on Robocop, Stargate, and a few other projects to get the ball rolling on several of the big MGM franchise projects that they, spent $8.5 billion buying MGM for in the first place. Stargate was part of that, and almost immediately negotiations restarted with Penguin and Parker. Those negotiations, obviously, this time were far more straightforward because Amazon knew what they wanted to do. They wanted a straight to cinema movie. They had an idea on budget. I'm being told it was 70 to 80 million dollars. This basically tells Mark Fergus what type of script he can then write. There's no point doing a big 3-hour CGI fest if you've only got 70 to 80 million dollars to play with. You have to know roughly the sort of money you can spend when writing a script like this, because it really tells the writer and the developer in this case where the goalposts are, how far he can go with certain things, what basically he can get on the screen. The negotiations, though, were a little bit different from before. So before that, he had a contract for development. It was to do the Bible and it was to do some of the development work, i.e., how would we restart the franchise now? The negotiations in March were far more focused. It was to develop a script for the movie. Now, we found out during the summer period, during the strikes, that a script was knocking around. I know people that say they've seen it, or at least seen a version of it, basically clip notes. Now, I was never able to find out any more information about what was in the script, who wrote the script, etc., etc. MGM and Amazon were still holding those facts quite close to their chest. But if this is true about Mark Fergus being contracted to write a script, it's a fair assumption to make that that is the script written by Mark Fergus that a couple of sources say they got to see bits of. Now, that is very interesting, remembering that Mark Fergus wrote the script for things like Iron Man. So why do I mention that? Well, bringing back a franchise like Stargate is going to be a massive challenge. Bringing back Iron Man the way they did was similarly a huge challenge. How do you get the exact tone that you need to be able to hit the bullseye with a movie like this? Stargate, the challenges are what's happened in the last 15 years. How much information do we share immediately, and how much do we hold back for a later movie, later series? Where do we set it? How do we set it? What do we bring from the original through? Do we bring a couple of cast members through? Do we bring sets back, etc., etc.? What do we change to make it interesting and new, but still feel like Stargate? And what do we keep the same? Getting this right is going to be so important. And assuming Mark Fergus is the one pushing forwards with the script and the development, it's going to be massively important that he gets that tone right. And if he does, we're going to get a really amazing kickstart to a new franchise. If he doesn't, it'll kill the franchise immediately. But at least in this case, we've got somebody with the experience, because his script kicked off the Marvel franchise. And that, even though it might have gone off the rails a little bit recently, was massively successful because he got the tone of the script right. So guys, get into the comments and tell me what you think about this news. We don't know exactly where we are now, and I have to put my hand on my heart and be honest about that, things might have changed, but I'm keeping my ear to the ground and I will keep pushing to find out what the hell is going on. But I'd love to know what you think. Is Mark Fergus the right person for this mission? Look at his IMDb, look at the history, look at the things he's written. Does this man look like the right man if we're not going to be getting Brad? That's the important and biggest question. I keep telling you guys, the showrunner or the person that writes the script, etc., is vital. They need to pick the right person. Is Mark that person? Get into the comments and tell me what you think. If you are new to the channel, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. It really helps us out and you'll never miss any of our new videos. Also, you can go to patreon.com/SciTrek where most of our new videos appear first. And you get to see them without the adverts for a small contribution each month that really supports the channel. Also, you can go to scitrek.co.uk, which is our dedicated website where we do articles based on a lot of our videos. And we try to add a little bit more information for you to digest. Go and check it out. As always, guys, please stay safe, and I'll see you next time.